Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. My name is Dr. Mutib Al-Anazi. I'm an assistant professor at King Saud University, Department of Optometry. Today I'm going to show you a very fun and simple activity that we do to help you understand and comprehend the eye movement, and specifically the extraocular muscle actions. We know each eye has has exactly 6 extraocular muscles, and that will give us the all kind of movements that we need, from elevation to depression, adduction and abduction, extorsion and intorsion. So this activity will help you understand that, and it will be a really fun way to build an eye model and attach the muscles to it to know what kind of movement. So what you need is very simple tools. So we're going to start with the foam ball, which will be the eyeball. So foam ball is about the size of, let's say, maybe 5 centimeters in diameter. And also you're gonna need a paper tape, and you're gonna make 6 pieces. And also you're gonna write the muscles or the extraocular muscles in each piece of tape. And also we're gonna use also toothpicks, about 6 of them, and depends on the size of the foam ball. We're gonna use what we call it a pipe cleaner, and that will help us to kind of indicate the optic nerve. And we are going to use pins that to help us attach those muscles to the eyeball. So to start with, the first step we're going to do is draw a circle on the eyeball and any part of the foam ball. So this will tell you now this is the anterior part of the eye, and this is the iris, and this is the pupil. And also it's very important to make a mark on any side that will indicate the superior side of the eyeball. So now we did that. It's very simple. The next thing we're going to do is, so we're going to assume throughout the activity is this is the right eye. So for the right eye, so now this is the superior, and usually the optic nerve is located not on the posterior pole directly, but is actually to the nasal side. So we're going to use this to, so now this is the superior side. So it's going to be somewhere here. This will be the optic nerve. So you're just going to push it through. And now we're going to have the optic nerve like this. So it's going to be nasally. And this is the superior side. And this will be the nasal side. The next step is to attach the axes, or we would call them the fixed axes. So we have 3 axes that we know about the movement. So we have a horizontal axis, and a vertical axis is a sagittal axis. So we're gonna use those toothpicks to attach to insert them through the foam ball to make the axis. So here we have a horizontal axis. So here, so this is the superior. So the horizontal axis will be horizontally placed from the one side to the other of the eyeball. So it's going to be something like this. And if the toothpick is not long enough, like in this case, so what we're going to use is another toothpick from the other side, kind of, because we're going to use that to so it'll be something like this. So we know the horizontal axis, or we call it, so the horizontal axis is the x-axis. So that will give us the, if you hold it, then you can move the eye up and down, or the eyeball. So that will be elevation and depression movement. The second axis will be the vertical axis. So it's going to be running from the superior side to the inferior side, something like this. And sometimes if it's, those will get inside, so it will, and we use another one from this part, so to give us the full axis. Trying to make it like a one piece, so something like this. And if it's too long, maybe we can cut part of it, something like that, to make it a little bit shorter. So now we have those, the horizontal and vertical axis placed. So vertical axis, if you hold it and move the eyeball around, it will have, so this is the superior side again, so you'll have adduction and and an abduction movement. The last axis is what we call the y-axis, is the sagittal axis. So that will go from the anterior part of the eyeball to the posterior part of the eyeball, something like this. And of course, we're gonna put one on back. So should be parallel with this one, not parallel, but we should meet this one, make it as one piece, so something like this. So now we have those three axes are attached. We're going to test it, for example, like if I hold the y-axis, so if I move the eyeball, so we have an intorsion and extorsion movement. So these are the three axes. We know the superior part. We know this is the right eye because the optic nerve, because of the optic nerve is nasally placed, and this step is done. The next step is to attach the muscles. So the next step is to attach the muscles. So we're going to start with the easy ones. So we have the medial rectus. So the medial rectus is all the recti muscles, the four of them here. So all the recti muscles are attached to the anterior side of the globe. So we're going to be right here. And the oblique muscles are going to be on the posterior side. So let's start with the medial. So the medial, the insertion line of the medial should be a vertical line. So what we mean by the insertion line, so if you see this, the line of the tape that meets the ball, so it's going to be a vertical line, straight vertical line. So you're going to use the pins here to attach the muscle. Very easy. So one here, and make sure it is vertical, the line of insertion, and you put another one right here. And now the muscle is attached. The next one is the lateral rectus. So the lateral rectus will be on the other side. Now we know this is the nasal side. So we place the muscle. We make sure the insertion line is vertical. And we place the insertion line is vertical here. And we place the one pin here. And another one. And another one here. So now these muscles are attached. Feel free to make adjustments if you see it does not. It's not a vertical line, but this should be fine. Now we're gonna do the superior rectus. So the superior rectus, usually the muscle itself is parallel to the optic nerve. So if you see the optic nerve is parallel. So if you put the muscle like this, it won't be parallel. So the insertion line with the axis form an angle of about 23 degrees. So the attach should be like this, the insertion line. So the insertion line should be a line going this way for the superior rectus. So the superior rectus, we're going to place it on the superior side of the anterior part of the globe will be somewhere right here. So the other one, this one should not be a horizontal line, it should be tilted to make the muscle parallel to the optic nerve here. So when you have it like this, and this is the superior rectus. Very similar to the inferior, to the superior rectus is the inferior rectus, but it's going to be in the inferior part, and also it's going to be parallel to the optic nerve. So if you look at the bulb from the bottom side, it's going to be this way. So I'm going to place the muscle right here and make sure the muscle is parallel, not straight like this, but it's parallel to the optic nerve. And we're going to place the second pin here. Yeah. Now we have the, maybe you make it a little bit more to make sure it's parallel to the optic nerve. Now it's we attached the 4 recti muscles. So we have the 4 obliques. The obliques can be a little bit tricky. So the oblique, the insertion of the oblique muscles are going to be like this. So we're talking about the superior oblique muscle. It's going to be superior, posterior, and lateral. What I mean by that? So superior, so now we're looking at the superior part of the globe. This is the superior from the mark that we made. And also it says posterior. So it's not going to be in the anterior, we're going to be in the posterior side, and lateral. So it's going to be in the lateral side. So this is the lateral side. So we're talking about this area. So this is the superior oblique. So we're going to attach, I'm going to make this straight line. So we're going to attach it here, and it's going to be also oblique. So we're going to attach one here. So we said superior, posterior, and lateral. Okay, that's the superior oblique. The inferior oblique is similar to the superior oblique. Maybe I can move this a little bit. Something like this. And now the inferior oblique is the last muscle, is going to be inferior, posterior. So we're going to look inferior. So this is the superior part. Sorry, it's a little bit crowded here. So now we know this is the superior part. Now we're going to look in the inferior part, and it says this is the inferior, posterior. So it's not going to be, this is the inferior, the bottom part, and the posterior. So it's in the back, and also the lateral. So we know this is the nasal, so it's going to be here in the lateral side. I'm gonna cut this one, and also it will be oblique. The insertion will be a line will be tilted. It's not horizontal or vertical, something like this. So now we have the 6 muscles are all attached. Then you're done. So the fun part is to test it out. So we know, so what I'm gonna ask you to do is maybe you find the table or the action of, or if you know the action of the muscles. So let's test it out. We know the medial and lateral muscles have one primary action. The medial muscle have one primary action, and the lateral muscle one primary action. And that action is either adduction or abduction. And the adduction and abduction is going to be along what axis? It's going to be along the vertical axis. So if we hold the vertical axis, and now I'm holding the vertical axis. So if I want to test the lateral rectus, and I'm pulling the lateral rectus to the side, I want to pull on the muscle, and I have an abduction movement. So the eye is moving away from the nose. The same thing for the medial rectus. Hold the same axis and pull on the muscle, so we have now an adduction movement. So the eye moves towards the nose. So if you hold any other axis, if you place those correctly, so for example, because the medial and lateral rectus do not have any secondary actions. So if you hold this axis, there is no movement. So if you hold this axis, it's a horizontal axis, it's not going to have any movement. And if I hold this axis also, which is the sagittal, we're not going to have any movement from the medial and the lateral muscle, because those two recti muscles do not have secondary actions, only primary actions along the vertical meridian. So let's now test the muscles that do have primary and secondary actions. So for example, the superior rectus. The superior rectus, it has the primary action of elevation. So if we hold this horizontal axis like this, if you hold the horizontal axis, this is the superior rectus. So if you pull, so the eye will be elevated. And also the secondary axis, the secondary action is the adduction. So the adduction is going to be the vertical axis. So hold the vertical axis and pull. So we have an adduction movement. See the eye, it's not a great movement or a great action like with the medial and lateral rectus. It's going to be, because that's why it's a secondary action. And the last one is for the superior rectus is going to be the along the y-axis, the sagittal. So if you hold the sagittal and now you pull it, so you have what kind of movement? You have an intorsion movement. So if the nose is here and you pull, so the eye is having an intorsion movement. So now you can have the three actions for the superior rectus muscle tested, and it worked. And now let's take one of the other muscles. For example, let's test the superior oblique. The superior oblique has also three actions. The primary one is the intorsion. So if you hold, the intorsion is usually, or the torsion movement along what axis? Around what axis? Is going to be around the y-axis, the sagittal. So you hold the sagittal and you pull on the muscle, the superior oblique here, and you have an intorsion movement. Let's hold the horizontal axis, which is give us the elevation and depression. So if I hold it, that will give us if I hold it and pull, that will give us a depression. So pull the eyeball down, that's a depression movement. And the last one is the along the y-axis, the vertical axis. So if you pull it, so you have an abduction movement as a secondary movement for the superior oblique. So you see it's having an abduction movement. So here you have it. So you can test all the muscles, you can see all the actions, and make sure that you hold the right axis when you test the actions that you're looking for. So the horizontal axis, or we call it the x-axis, this one, usually what you have kind of movements, elevation and depression, as we said, and a vertical axis, which is the z-axis, this one. If you hold it, you're going to have an adduction and abduction movement. If you hold the last axis, which is the y-axis, this one will give you rotational movement, which is the intorsion and extorsion movement, torsion movement. So it's a very fun, very easy, and you can keep this And actually this activity was taught to me by Dr. Remington, and it was a great way to comprehend and understand how the muscles from the attachment or the extraocular muscles, how they attach to the eyeball, and also the actions and the axis. So it was a very fun activity, and I hope you enjoy it as well. And great. And let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much.